Nat, play this clip for me. So you got Jordan Peterson on Rogan talking about the woke right, and this went viral, and I don't even fully understand it, so I'm hoping someone can tell me what this even means. Let it rip, will ya?
A new theory of political psychopathology, and I like it quite a lot.
Is this where the term the woke right comes in?
Yeah, you can't really hear it.
Lindsay is a new theory of political psychopathology, and I like it quite a lot.
Is this where the term the woke right comes in?
Yeah, well, Lindsay is pointing at that, but he hasn't got the diagnosis exactly right. So it isn't woke. That's not the issue. It's not exactly.
I think
one
what
level.
they're talking about is like similar types of behavior.
He is talking about that. Yeah, I know what he's pointing.
Woke just lets you clarify in your head. Oh, it's like that.
Yeah, but the problem is
it's like Antifa.
Yeah, absolutely. But the problem is that argument is predicated on the claim that the ideas are the problem, like the woke ideas, for example, on the right or the left, but that's not the problem. The problem is that 4 to 5% of the population, something like that, is cluster B, that's the DSM-5 terms, histrionic, narcissistic, antisocial, psychopathic, or they have dark tetrad traits, they're Machiavellian, they're sadistic. That's about 4%. Okay, so the question is, how do these people maneuver? And the answer is they go to where the power is, and they adopt those ideas, and they put themselves even on the forefront of that. Right. But the ideas are completely irrelevant.
Right.
All they're doing is, they're the Pharisees, they're the modern version of the Pharisees. They're the people who use God's name in vain, right? As they proclaim moral virtue.
Yes.
Doesn't matter whether it's right or left or Christian or Jewish or
I
Islam.
cannot follow this at all, and I've tried 10
I'll explain.
times. Give it to me in English and then dumb it down to 6th grade level, please.
There's a whole backstory to this, and Jordan Peterson is touching on that backstory without actually naming names.
Okay.
And I thought this entire conversation was hilarious because he was essentially trying to convince Rogan to avoid having certain people on his podcast.
Is that what was happening?
Yes,
Candace
that is
Owens, right?
100%. No. Well, maybe Candace Owens, but this wasn't really about Candace Owens. This was about two people in particular. One is Dave Smith, who's Jewish and a libertarian. The other individual was
the Daryl guy?
Yes, Daryl Cooper.
I actually talked to Rogan about this.
Yes. Daryl Cooper, by the way, I mean,
go for it.
I've listened to Daryl Cooper's content. I wanted to actually really understand who the man is before I jump in and start defaming him.
Can you establish what the controversy is around him? And then, since you've actually read the content, can you explain that?
Yes. So I didn't read. He has these very long.
Fear and Loathing in Jerusalem.
Fear and Loathing in Jerusalem is one of them.
Right.
The other one is called the Epstein Files. Anyway, he does these deep dives into some pretty controversial issues,
a la Candace Owens,
and provides context that you're not going to learn in history, class. And it's in books, but they're not the kind of books that most people are reading, especially in the context of education. So basically, Daryl Cooper's podcast series are interesting. I actually wanted to cross-reference and fact-check a lot of what he was reporting on in the Epstein Files, and I didn't find anything inaccurate, which I thought was interesting.
I get it.
So because of the fact that some of what he puts out there sheds maybe a negative light on the formation of Israel, there are those who are hardcore supporters of Israel who want to silence him. Okay,
can I?
And by the way, Dave Smith, who's very well read, is a fan of Daryl Cooper. And was defending him when he was on Joe Rogan's podcast. Now, Joe Rogan had Dave Smith and Douglas Murray on to debate the topic of Israel. That debate never happened because Douglas Murray was hyper-focused on basically telling Rogan, don't have this guy on your show. That was the implied message there, which was really annoying because I was looking forward to hearing Douglas Murray maybe refute some of what Dave Smith has to say. I'm a fan of Dave Smith. I've heard his commentary on this topic, and I'm like, okay, great. I want to hear someone challenge Dave Smith on the substance. None of that happened. It was just, oh, you haven't been there. He basically told Dave Smith, you haven't been to Israel or Gaza. You have no right to talk about this, which is a ridiculous point to make. Now, Jordan Peterson came in, and he was basically trying to make a similar point, but from the perspective of, you might think these guys are good guys, but maybe they're just co-opting, an identity that you agree with in order to
exert their power,
propagandize people with anti-Semitism. Yeah, that's what this is really about.
So two things. I want to throw this out there just simply because I actually ended up having this conversation with Joe because I crossed paths with Jordan Peterson in Austin. And I want to say that he looked, I've only met him twice now and did a show one time, but he looked so genuinely hurt.
Yeah.
And I felt that he was genuinely hurt and felt so genuinely misunderstood for his curiosity and attempts to find common ground with people.
Totally. Yeah.
He is probably the least anti-Semitic person, and an individual that seems overwhelmingly, I hope this doesn't get me on his bad side, overwhelmingly sensitive.
Rogan?
Yeah.
Interesting.
He seems pretty sensitive feeling guy. And if you've ever watched him talk about his kids, it really, like he hunts elk and like he gets this uber male kind of persona attached to him. But he's like, I don't really like dunking on people.
No, he doesn't.
And I don't like when people fight and debate aggressively. He's a pretty sweet, gentle soul.
Oh, wow. He
From
is.
what I've taken away from him. And he was really hurt by this whole, you've platformed Nazis. And his argument was, and I'm not familiar with Daryl, so this is where I will defer to you.
Yeah.
His argument is that it isn't at all the point that Daryl was making.
Right.
And that Douglas had not read Daryl's content.
No, or listened
and
to
Douglas
it.
was misrepresenting what Daryl was trying to say about World War II. Now, I don't know if that's true or false, but you seem to have an idea.
So, hold on. He's going to come out with a World War II series that's apparently very controversial.
Okay.
I have not listened to a single minute of that. I don't even know if it's out yet, so I don't want to, provide any type of defense of that if I haven't listened to it. But in regard to what Daryl Cooper has put out, I have listened to 2 of his very lengthy podcast series. They're very nuanced, and that's the problem. We live in a time and age where nuance goes right over people's heads.
You're so right.
Because people aren't going to sit down and listen to the entirety of the series the way I did,
or
the way Dave Smith did, or the way Rogan did. Rogan is an intellectually curious person.
Yeah.
And actually, this whole debacle forced me to reevaluate some of my past beliefs as well, because this whole notion of like Rogan has a responsibility and he shouldn't platform certain people. The left was making that argument. I used to make that argument in regard to Rogan platforming people that I disagreed with. Now, obviously, I changed my mind entirely on that. I think that these conversations need to happen.
You're defending Mahmoud Khalil, so clearly you changed your mind.
I think it's really important for people to have their beliefs challenged. That's how I grew as a person, and it's super uncomfortable. It's awful. But you come out on the other end a better person.
100%.
You know?
100%. I think that there is a little bit of a difference between the woke right and what Jordan Peterson is referring to. From my perspective, the woke right is kind of what the left is trying to do with this cancel culture.
Oh my gosh,
it's
so
canceling
toxic.
people from the right who disagree, or anybody who steps outside of the perfect little boundaries of what it means to be this conservative, this Republican. To me, that is the woke right. What Jordan Peterson is talking about is sociopathic narcissists who essentially will hijack any belief system.
Yeah.
Conservatism, liberalism, socialism, whatever it is. So they can exert power.
Luckily you laid it out, because I was like, what are you
I mean, if you watch it
about?
at length, you can get it. I mean,
I watched the
sometimes
whole
with Jordan
thing.
Peterson, you need to watch him like 3 times on December.
I know.
It's
It's
very
like Russell
intellectually
Brand. You're like,
language.
wait, hold on. Give it to me in English.
Right.
What the heck?
I feel you
But
on that.
ladies-
But he is making there's a clear distinction between the two. What he's talking about with Candace, and I believe he is directing some of it at Candace. I believe some of it is
Yeah,
to do
I
with the
agree.
whole
I agree.
Christ is King scenario, where they're saying that her touting Christ is King is inherently anti-Semitic. I completely disagree with that premise. I think that's completely wrong. To me, that has nothing to do with the woke right.
There's another element to the woke right. There are so many MAGA gatekeepers, these very prominent far-right influencers, and I'm not going to name names, but they all know who they are. And when you convert to the right, they will destroy you.
I've not had that, though. No, maybe I haven't necessarily converted to the right.
Jillian,
but
you're Jillian fucking Michaels, okay? You're untouchable.
That is not true.
It's just true. You have this halo. But for someone like me and so many others, you have to go through like a communist struggle session, kind of.
Really?
And we've talked about it
I have found it
offhand.
to be the opposite.
Maybe because you're a love for outside of politics.
I was
think
never-
it's different
yeah, I was
if
never
you
woke
were
enough
loved
for the
your
left.
political
That's interesting.
views.
But
and
there is-
you are universally loved by nonpartisan people, by
Right,
everyone.
and also
Guys.
there is this one person, and
You must have missed me being one of the most polarizing women of all time.
No, we just love you, girl. I love
you for that.
there,
That's okay.
there is this person in the right-wing ecosystem who defamed me when I left the Democratic Party because she thought I was out for her lunch because I left the party.
female
It's
thing,
just,
though.
but it's the thing is
That's a Gen X female
hold
thing,
on.
by the way.
It's significant because she is one of the most the biggest figures on the far right, and I had to shell out money for a defamation lawyer. I was spitting out, I was coughing up blood. It was the worst period of my life. It was so difficult. And I'm just saying that, honestly, Republicans need to cut this shit out, because the whole point of elections is changing people's minds and embracing them, not destroying them because they had a change of heart.
And we've all seen how the people in the middle, the purple people, are going to shift this one way or another.
Yeah.
So moving a little bit more to the center and being more tolerant seems to be the most effective way forward. Thank you so much for watching Her Take. If you like the show, can you help us out by subscribing to the channel, clicking the notification button, sharing, commenting, joining the conversation? It helps us out a ton with the algorithm. We appreciate you.